Naomi had always been a healthy person, but lately, she had noticed a strange change in her body. It had started a few weeks ago, with a slight green tinge to her skin. She thought it might be a reaction to a new moisturizer she was using, but it didn't go away. As days went by, the green color had become more pronounced, and Naomi could not ignore it anymore. She decided to see a doctor, but after several visits to different specialists, they all told her the same thing: she was perfectly healthy. Naomi was perplexed. How could she be healthy when she could see the green hue spreading across her body? She had even tried scrubbing her skin with soap and water, but the green color wouldn't budge. One night, as she was lying in bed, she heard a strange rustling noise coming from outside her bedroom window. She got out of bed to investigate, but when she looked out, there was nothing there. The next day, Naomi decided to set up a camera outside her window, just in case there was an intruder. That night, she watched the footage from the camera, but there was nothing out of the ordinary, just a few cars passing by on the street. Days passed, and the green color continued to spread across her skin. She began to feel weak and lethargic, and even her hair had started to turn green. Naomi knew something was seriously wrong, but nobody could give her an answer. One day, while sitting in her living room, she noticed a strange green glow emanating from her front door. She cautiously approached the door, and as she got closer, the glow became brighter. Suddenly, the door burst open, and Naomi was thrown backward onto the floor. Standing in the doorway was a figure covered in green scales, with glowing green eyes that seemed to pierce through her soul. Naomi tried to scream, but no sound came out. The figure approached her slowly, and as it got closer, she could feel its breath on her face. It spoke in a low, raspy voice.
"I have been waiting for you, Naomi,"
it said.
"You are the chosen one."
Naomi was paralyzed with fear. She had no idea what the figure was talking about.
"You will be the mother of our race."
The figure continued.
"Your body has been changing to prepare for the birth of our offspring. You are special, Naomi. Embrace your destiny."
With that, the figure disappeared, leaving Naomi alone and terrified on the floor. She knew she had to get out of her house and away from this creature. She ran out of her house and into the street, not looking back until she was far away. Naomi knew her life would never be the same. She was now marked for something beyond her understanding. She couldn't tell anyone about what had happened, for they would surely think she was crazy. But she knew, deep down, that it was real. The green color on her body was just the beginning of a dark and ominous fate that awaited her. Naomi spent the next few days in a state of shock, unable to comprehend what had happened to her. She couldn't shake the memory of the creature with green scales and glowing eyes, and the realization that her body was changing for a purpose beyond her understanding. As the days went on, the green color continued to spread across her body, and Naomi felt weaker and more fatigued than ever before. She knew that she needed to find out more about the creature that had visited her, but she had no idea where to start. One night, as she was sitting in her living room, she heard a strange noise coming from outside. She cautiously approached the window and peeked out, only to see a group of strange-looking ships descending from the sky. Naomi's heart began to race as she watched in horror as the ships landed in the street outside her house. She knew that the creatures who had visited her before must have arrived, and she had no idea what they wanted. Naomi watched in terror as the creatures emerged from the ships. They were tall and thin, with green skin and glowing eyes, just like the creature that had visited her before. They moved with an eerie grace, almost like they were floating, and they seemed to be communicating with each other in a language that Naomi couldn't understand. As the creatures moved through the streets, Naomi could hear the screams of her neighbors as they were taken captive. She knew that she had to get out of her house and away from the creatures, but she also knew that it was probably too late. Naomi fled out the back door of her house and into the woods behind her property. She ran for what felt like hours, until she was exhausted and could go no further. She collapsed onto the ground, her body shaking with fear and exhaustion. As Naomi lay there, she could see strange lights in the sky above her, and she knew that the creatures had taken over the world. She had no idea where they had come from or how they had arrived on Earth, but she knew that their arrival spelled the beginning of the fall of humankind. Naomi knew that she had been chosen for a purpose, but she had no idea what that purpose was. All she knew was that she was now a pawn in a game that she couldn't hope to understand, and that her fate, and the fate of all humankind, was now in the hands of the alien creatures that had invaded Earth. The following days held chaos for the world around her home, while Naomi and her parents somehow went undetected by the invaders all around. As Naomi slept in those nights, she began to have vivid and strange dreams. In her dreams, she was no longer on Earth but on a distant planet, surrounded by creatures that looked just like her. A place with plants taller than skyscrapers, and a vivid pink sky. At first, Naomi was frightened and disoriented, but as the dreams continued, she started to feel a sense of familiarity and belonging. In the dreams, Naomi remembered that she had always been an alien, and that her mission on Earth had been to pose as a human and gather data about the planet and its inhabitants. She realized that her green skin was not a disease, but the sign of her true alien form re-emerging after years of living as a human. Naomi's alien race was called the Klyptorians, and they were a highly advanced and technologically advanced species. They had sent a team of researchers, including Naomi, to Earth to study the planet and its inhabitants. Their goal was to determine whether the planet was worth preserving or whether it needed to be destroyed to make way for a new colony. As Naomi's memories came flooding back to her, she began to understand the true nature of the Klyptorians' plan for Earth. They had decided that the planet was not worth preserving, and that it would be destroyed to make way for a new colony. The Klyptorians had been gathering data on Earth for years, and they now had enough information to launch their plan. Meanwhile, her skin consisted of a hard plate of shimmering green scales, like what a dragon might have had if they were real. Her hair fell out in clumps until she was bald, and the ridges on her skull were fully displayed. Her eyes turned yellow, but not the yellow of a human's eyes when they are sick. No, a glittering gold like precious metal. Her parents looked at her in both concern and fear. They wanted to protect her, but they also wanted to hide from her. Naomi knew that she had to find a way to stop the Klyptorians before it was too late. She had been sent to Earth to gather data, but now she had a new mission: to protect the planet and its inhabitants from destruction. As Naomi woke up from her dreams, she knew that she had a long and difficult road ahead of her. She was an alien, but she was also human in a way, and she had to find a way to save the planet she had come to call home. With a sense of determination and purpose, Naomi began to plan her next move, determined to stop the Klyptorians and save the human race from destruction. Naomi knew that the only way to stop the Klyptorians was to sacrifice herself. She had a plan, and it was risky, but it was the only way to ensure that the human race would be safe. One night, Naomi attacked her mother, knowing that her father would try to save her. In a desperate move, Naomi's father grabbed a nearby knife and lunged at her. As he struck her, Naomi's skin began to fade and soften, turning back to human skin. Her black hair grew back in the blink of an eye, long, black, and flowing. It surrounded her pretty face as her strength faded away with her coursing blood. Her father realized too late what he had done, but it was too late to save her. As Naomi lay dying on the ground, she whispered to her father the truth about her alien origins and the Kleptorians' plan. With tears streaming down his face, Naomi's father cradled her in his arms and watched as her life slowly faded away. Naomi's sacrifice had foiled the Kleptorians' plans, and the human race was saved. But it had come at a great cost. Naomi had given her life to protect her planet and its inhabitants. As the world mourned Naomi's loss, they also celebrated her bravery and sacrifice. She had given her life to protect her home, and her memory would live on forever.